Hi students, today I am going to teach you a very popular, very sought after novelist by the young students of the postgraduates in English literature, as well as those students or those people who are very much interested in reading novels, English novels, classical novels. They know D.H. Lawrence very well. D.H. Lawrence has been a very great novelist for his great novels, for the genre which he has written, and the sensuousness, the level of nature, and the approach which D.H. Lawrence has conceived, has given to the world of literature. It is unsurpassable. So today we are going to discuss about D.H. Lawrence in detail, and I'm sure you would be very much benefited as far as the examination view or perception is concerned. Because once you have to start any author, these basics are very much required, because I have always been telling in the previous classes also that there are so many things which are incorporated, which are inculcated when you are writing your answers, and when you listen to classes, you subconsciously you can refer to your examination or to your paper. So D.H. Lawrence, first of all, when he was born Eastwood, in a village 8 miles north. Eastwood. Eastwood is a village 8 miles north of the city of Nottingham. 8 miles north of the city of Nottingham, where D.H. Lawrence was born. And his father was Arthur Lawrence. Fine. His father was Arthur Lawrence, who had barely learned to write his name. Means he did not even know how to write his name. He was a person who worked in mines. A father of D.H. Lawrence used to work in mines since his childhood until he was an old man. He never became anything more than a worker, than a foreman of a section of the coal face, where approximately not more than 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 men were under his direction. So he passed his entire life as a foreman working in the coal mine. Fine. So he was a person who fought every now and then with his superiors, and thus created himself created hindrances in his progress. Because when you are every time fighting with your superiors, then कहीं न कहीं पे आपकी जो progress है वो hinder कर जाती है. And outside the pit, he was popular with his co-friends, with his co-workers. Why? Because he had a very sweet voice. He was handsome also, a ruddy-faced man with dark flashing eyes and a beard also. He used to boast that a razor had never touched his face. This was his boasting. And if I talk about D.H. Lawrence's mother, his mother, who had never been near a mining town, कभी वो जिंदगी में mining town की कभी पास गई नहीं. Her mother, Miss D.H. Lawrence's mother, who never been through a mining town, met Arthur Lawrence at a party at Nottingham, and she was attracted by his graceful dancing, his musical soft voice, his mannerisms, gallant manner, and the blending of good humor as well as good spirits. So what was the name of his mother? Lydia Beardsall. Lydia, ये हो गई मदर और ये फादर. So Lydia Beardsall was her maiden name. She was a member of a proud Nottingham family. And at the time of her marriage, she had little idea of what it was like to be a coal miner's wife. उनको इस बात का इल्म ही नहीं था कि वो किसकी वाइफ बनने जा रही हैं. She had little idea of what it was like to be a coal miner's wife. She had 3 sons altogether: George Arthur, William Ernest, and David Herbert, and 2 daughters, Emily and Lettice Ada. Mrs. Lawrence, means Mrs. Lydia Beardsall, never mixed with the other miners' wives who were the residents of that area. She wanted to marry her daughters above this section of class, means above this mining classes, and she wanted her sons out of this area, out of this mines, out of this coal area. She was happy over the school career of D.H. Lawrence, who used to win a scholarship of £15 a year to at the Nottingham High School. This is true that it was not a very big amount or not enough amount to cover the cost of daily transportation between the Eastwood and Nottingham. And the lunches the boy had to eat in the city. But the mother's stubborn, self-sacrificing nature made it possible for him to attend the high school and remain there for 3 years. Had she would have been like a coal miner's wife, her son would not have aspired, or she would not have given that inspiration for the children to study. And D.H. Lawrence had to leave home at 7 in the morning, returning 12 hours late with always a pile of lessons to complete. He left the school in the summer of the 16th year and found a job at Haywood's firm. That was a firm of surgical goods manufacturers in Nottingham, at the salary of around 13 shillings a week. 13 shillings milte the usko ek hafte mein. And he was a studious child, but he started his job at a firm of surgical instruments, surgical manufacturers. Fine. Now, D.H. Lawrence की जब कहाँ यहाँ से करियर शुरू होता है, this is also important to understand that he met Jessie Chambers. D.H. Lawrence met Jessie Chambers when he met in the summers of 1901. That time when he used to visit the farms rented by her father. There he spent most of his time with Jessie, and he taught Jessie to read French. D.H. Lawrence taught Jessie to read French. Lawrence also practiced painting. Jessie encouraged his self-expression. Jessie used to worship him and praised his manuscripts and even paintings. And D.H. Lawrence afterwards said it was at her farm that he got his first incentive to write. And he was also very much fascinated by beautiful flowers. Now we come to his career, means when he started his writing. In 1909, students, the White Peacock his first novel, The White Peacock, appeared. And Jessie Chambers reported in her memoir that Lawrence told her all what they and their friends said would go ever so well in a book. Now, यहाँ तक की details के बाद then what happened that D.H. Lawrence's mother became ill with cancer, and that was a time around 1910. I just told you that The White Peacock was published. That was the first public publication, that is The White Peacock 1909. उस समय जब उसकी मदर को कैंसर हुआ था, वो जो इसकी नॉवल थी 1909 की, वो अंडर प्रिंट चल रही थी. So he requested his publishers to make haste, जल्दी करें, in getting the novel out. और उसने कहीं पे लिखा भी है, he has written somewhere that not that I care much myself, but I want my mother to say it while she keeps the life or the life consciousness. Means कि हमें अपनी बहुत केयर नहीं है, बट मेरी ऐसी तमन्ना है, मेरी ऐसी ख्वाहिश है, मेरी ऐसी विश है कि मेरी मदर मेरी नॉवल को देख पाए. And he was able to put a copy of The White Peacock in his mother's hand not long before she died. She could not actually believe that the book contained anything important. His father was also very much astonished to learn that Lawrence would get 50 pounds without doing a hard day's work in his life. Fine. And finally, the death of Lawrence's mother in 1910 was a great blow, was a great shock, was a great tragedy for Lawrence, for D.S. Lawrence. Now, in 1912, he left teaching and afterwards all his life lived on the earnings as maybe slight as an author. And he afterwards remembered the year 1911 as the sick year. क्यों भाई sick year? क्योंकि इस साल, for in this year, he broke away from several women he had been involved with. He could never form a permanent connection while his mother was alive, compelling him by her will to stay in the orbit of her own affections. He was not able to build any relationship with any particular lady or women because his mother always used to make him loving, caring for her only. And ये वही समय था. It was about this time that Lawrence broke away from all the orthodox creeds. But he was to remain throughout his life an intensely religious man. An intensely religious man meditating over different possible forms of religion. And his whole life is actually taken to be an experiment in human religions. Fine. So now, बहुत जल्दी ही soon D.S. Lawrence came in contact with the wife of a former professor at Nottingham. हाल में ही उसके बाद D.S. Lawrence की मुलाकात एक प्रोफेसर के वाइफ से होती है जो कि प्रोफेसर थे नॉटिंगम में. And she was mother of 3 children. But she, that lady, a wife of a professor, and D.H. Lawrence immediately took up their life together. It was actually surprising for both the people how he and how she could manage. Being a wife, being a mother of 3 children. They were married now and had left England. She was then 31 and D.H. Lawrence was 27. And in D.H. Lawrence's unconscious mind, Frieda, F-R-E-I-D-A, Frieda was doubtless blotting out the image of his mother as no other woman had done ever before. And Lawrence wrote to her not to worry if she had become pregnant by him. There should be no interference for what he wanted to have children by her, wanted to marry her. And I still remember there was a quote he has written, D.S. Lawrence. I think when one loves, one's very sex passion becomes calm, a steady sort of force instead of a storm. And passion that nearly drives one mad is far away from real love. And I'm realizing things that I never thought to realize. So this he himself has written about love, about sex. And his union with Frieda marks the close of his first phase in writing. And the second phase of the new spirit starts. And the first period ends with the final writing of जो पहला पीरियड है वो खत्म होता है जब वो लिखता है Sons and Lovers. Fine. So the first period ends with the final writing of his most popular novel, Sons and Lovers. उसका एक पब्लिशर था जिसका नाम था गार्नेट, G-A-R-N-E-T-T. Lawrence told Garnett, who was his publisher, that love made him feel barbaric. And Frieda wanted to leave Europe and to visit some uncivilized place. And this idea of visiting some uncivilized place later on became very important with Lawrence. Because his intuition power, his knowledge, led him independently to many such conclusions at which psychoanalysis, or we can say psychoanalysts, were then arriving in the Viennese clinics. Viennese means? Viennese clinics. About Sons and Lovers, Lawrence said towards the end of his life that the first half of the book was all autobiographical, was totally autobiography. So during his stay at Italy and Switzerland, Lawrence again came in contact with many ladies, with many women, and with some of them he became very closely associated. He had a faculty similar to that of his German contemporary, that German contemporary naam tha Rilke. He had a faculty similar to that of his German contemporary Rilke for arousing the sympathy of the high-born women. And Frieda herself was a baroness, and Lady Cynthia